In 2019, the Pokemon Company introduced us to two new legendary Pokemon, one of which would end up being the strongest restricted Pokemon we had ever seen. Fast forward a few years, and suddenly we are in a restricted VGC format featuring Zacian itself. Now, surely Zacian wasn't that oppressive, right? Right? Everyone was a bit upset about Zacian's usage. With a measly 69% usage stat, it was very evident that Zacian was one of the best restricted Pokemon we had ever seen. But before I get ahead of myself, it's important to tell you what Zacian did. Reaching a stat total of 720, Zacian was truly in a class of its own. To make this Pokemon even more absurd, it was equipped with the ability Intrepid Sword, netting Zacian a +1 on entry to battle. And it's not like the Pokemon Company skipped on its move pool either. With access to moves such as Swords Dance, Play Rough, Substitute, and Sacred Sword, it even has its own signature move, Behemoth Blade. Behemoth Blade is a 100 power stab, 100 accurate steel type move that doubles in power if it targets a Dynamax Pokemon. High stats with a signature move. I mean, Zacian can't possibly get any better, right? Right? Feel like we've been here before. Sadly, you'd be mistaken. In Generation 6, the Pokemon Company would introduce us to the Fairy typing, changing the game forever and giving us one of the best typings to ever exist. So imagine the absolute shock we received when it was revealed that Zacian would be Fairy and Steel, netting it an immunity to its poison weakness as well as a neutral hit from the Steel opposition. This, however, did mean that Zacian would receive two new weaknesses in Fire and Ground type Pokemon. Good thing there's not, oh, I don't know, theoretically speaking here, a weather setter that could, totally threaten the ground type Pokemon that come to get Zacian, and I don't know, weaken fire types that also hit Zacian for the only two super effective types, right? Right? It's right behind me, isn't it? Trainers quickly figured out that this hypothetical rain setter that I was talking about truly existed, and they paired their Zacian with Kyogre to create one of the strongest duos we had ever seen in VGC. Fast forward a bit more, and we enter the brand new open world adventure known as Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. We were all eager to know what Pokemon were returning to join us in the Paldea region. With early talks of the previous dominant Pokemon such as Dragapult, Zacian, and Urshifu rumored to return, we all had the same question on our mind. Would these Pokemon hang without Dynamax? How would the new terrestrialization affect these Pokemon? With a bit of research, Pokemon fans would all be shocked to discover that Zacian had been nerfed. It had been revealed that Zacian had lost 20 points from its attack stat as well as receiving a nerf to its ability. Previously, when Zacian entered battle, it would gain a +1 stat increase to its physical attack stat. Even when Pokemon like Incineroar rotated in to intimidate and drop a Zacian's attack, the Zacian would just swap out and reset its +1 later in the battle. This wouldn't be possible for Zacian as Zacian's ability now only triggers once per battle. This was a huge nerf to Zacian as its Fairy and Steel typing made it a great rotational Pokemon to soak up damage, as well as giving it an offensive capability to apply pressure in mid and late game scenarios. Losing Dynamax also inherently hurt Zacian as its signature ability lost the ability to double in damage. In Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the Terra type was introduced. This further makes things problematic for Zacian. For example, when a Pokemon Dynamaxed, it had 3 turns of Dynamax and it was over. Unlike Terrestrialization, you could not just switch these Pokemon out or you would lose a ton of value and lose your Dynamax Pokemon for the remainder of the battle. This hurts Zacian as the main mechanic of Gen 9 can both create a resistance to Zacian on the fly as well as be safe for later in the battle. So that being said, we need to ask the golden question. Is Zacian viable in Scarlet and Violet? The answer? Absolutely. I've put together 3 Zacian teams that I think could be successful off of the skeleton of old teams that have already been successful in previous regulations. The first team I want to go over is just the Zacian Rain Balance team. Zacian really benefits off of the Rain Balance team because it can set up the Sword Stance much like a Goldingo would want to here. You are weak to the fake out that's going to come out of like an Incineroar or something, but you do have Protect. But it essentially runs a Steel roll just like the Goldingo. That's why we go for the Terra Grass. It is a little more committal because you don't have that good as Gold ability. But I feel like Zacian fits on this core very, very well. Pelipper protects its ground and fire weakness. Not only can you rotate into Pelipper to be immune to a ground type Pokemon, the drizzle on switch in, it summons a Rain Dance, weakens fire type moves by 50%, and it threatens fire type Pokemon with the Weather Ball super effective. So that's a really good partner for the Zacian Crown. Zacian's also a very physical Pokemon, but you can protect it from all those spread moves with the Wide Guard, so that's very nice. Much like the Goldingo setup, where you would probably lead Incineroar and just set the Pokemon up. You also have the Amoonguss, where you could just redirect and kind of protect the Zacian with this core. And then you have the Chin-Pao and the Urshifu lead, which is just another mode that the team could go in that's fast with the Focus Sash and the Choice Scarf and the 135 speed off of the Chin-Pao. And essentially, this is like a scout lead. You could do it with Pelipper too. And kind of the idea with the team, and the reason I think Zacian fits well in this team, is it is a steel type which loves taking advantage of those rain modes. The grass typing makes it immune to Amoonguss and resists the Miraidon electric onslaught. But you also resist the fire type weakness that's going to come in with the rain. So that supports it while giving it Amoonguss immunity. You don't want to be redirected with such a powerful attacking Pokemon with something like Amoonguss, where you can attack the targets that you want to. I think this core could be very, very good if played well. You could set up your Zacian, or you could scout with the Urshifu Chin-Pao. You could bring Urshifu Chin-Pao and just kind of lead and scout, do massive damage, and the opponent can't protect, and make key trades. Chin-Pao is one of the best Pokemon to trade in the game. Then you can go into something like that Pelipper for the mid-game damage, with something like your Sash still intact on Chin-Pao, or your Urshifu at low health, where you've traded some damage, but you still have a Pokemon remaining. And that allows Zacian to clean up the endgame while hopefully retaining its +1. The main target for this would definitely be any Intimidators that want to come to intimidate Zacian. But the cool part is, if you ever get a position to where the Swords Dance can go off, then you're essentially +3. And it will take a lot of rotation to kind of neutralize this Zacian. Up next is a skeleton of James Evans' winning regional team. I just took the skeleton from that and basically threw Zacian over the King Gambit. Notably, you do lose out on the King Gambit's Defiant ability, but this is another team that I think Zacian could pair well with. You just essentially have damaging moves on the Zacian because the Gouging Fire is there to boost it up. Same thing in the previous regulation, where when the Incineroar came, it boosted up the King Gambit. You will not get the boost here, but you will have access to how to keep your Zacian at +1. So starting off at +1 is essentially starting off with a Defiant boost already. If the Incid comes in, you can then boost it up. This lead is susceptible to Fake Out, obviously, and Will-O-Wisp on the Zacian Crown. But Sacred Sword is a good threat into the Incineroar, where I think King Gambit didn't have that. Then you have the Rillaboom support, and it obviously loves taking the Howls off of the Gouging Fire and supporting the team as well, and it could passively heal up this Zacian. The Flutter Mane was just on the team just because it's a very, very good Pokemon. It's a good special attacker. The Landorus is an immunity for the ground weakness. It could check some of those fire types, like the Incineroar, that want to come in and threaten the Zacian and weaken it down. And then same with the Ogerpon, just good redirection for the Zacian from the fire type. It could also threaten those fire types. This could also be something to where you position it a little differently. Maybe you lead Gouging plus Ogre, and you boost this up, and you break through their Intimidators, and you have Zacian crowned in the back, who just gets the +1 and comes in and tries to sweep the endgame with this very defensive typing. Lastly, I have a Zacian team that's basically the skeleton of Katori's top 8 regional team. This is just a team that's wanting to function with Chin-Pao and use physical attackers to take advantage of Chin-Pao's Sword of Ruin ability. This Zacian is Stellar Terra to just further boost its damage output with 3 attacks. I did think Quick Attack is interesting. If you guys recall, back in Generation 8, Quick Attack was on Zacian, and it was a very powerful 170 base move that could just clean up extra Pokemon. A team like this absolutely loves this, because although it is 40 base power, if you actually Stellar Terra, you do get a little bit of a boost onto this for one time. And if you put it beside Sword of Ruin, you have to remember Zacian is +1, and it still gets the Stellar boost, as well its 150 base attack is still pretty impressive. So that could be very interesting for a build like this. I didn't put the Sacred Sword on here because Chin-Pao already wants to carry the Sacred Sword. Notably, you have Ice Spinner to get rid of those terrains, which is nice. Urshifu plus Chin-Pao lead, that's another one that could just kind of scout and clean up games, where you could bring the Zacian crown in later. Raging Bolt, with its priority, loves this team, loves this style team. This team loves priority moves and essentially just playing aggressive and going first. Amoonguss to help for the Trick Room mode, and then just kind of support the Zacian Crown and other teammates as well. And then the Ogre Pawn just to do massive damage. Terra gives it the +1, much like Zacian Crown, except it retains that +1 throughout the battle if it switches out. So this overall, I could see Zacian also benefiting off of being on a team such as this. Sure, Zacian isn't a dominant force like it once was, but it does appreciate being a Pokemon to the joy of the benefits of being on a solid team. With proper positioning, Zacian can be a real in-game threat. We will likely see its value increase in the double restricted format as well. Regulation G is still fresh, meaning there are several unexplored avenues Zacian can potentially travel. I'm not sure if we'll see Zacian win or even top a regional, but who knows? Maybe you can be the trainer to push a former VGC Goliath back into its glory days. Let me know down in the comments section below your thoughts on the Zacian nerfs. Were they justified and executed properly, or did they nerf it too far? I'm very interested in what you have to say and look forward to replying to your comments. That's going to be it for today. Keep practicing, and I'll see you on the next video.